1 minute. We're good to go. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this afternoon's Parks, Trails and Recreation Committee meeting to order, and I'd like to acknowledge with respect that we're meeting on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen speaking people. We are honored to have the opportunity to build strong working relationships with the people of the Songhees and Wet'suwet'en nations, whose historical relationship with the land continues to this day. Can I get an approval of the Parks, Trails, Recreation Committee meeting agenda to be adopted as presented? Carol? Any discussion? All in favor? Adoption of minutes. That the minutes of the Special Parks, Trail and Recreation Committee meeting held August 7th be adopted as presented. May I have a motion, please? Judy? All in favor? Oh, Carol, do you?
Here, so should I abstain?
Oh, no, it's okay to. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, sorry, we're at public participation already. I'd like to open it up to members of the public to have an opportunity to address the committee with any concerns or questions you might have. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Councillor Day.
Thank you, Cynthia Day, 3546 Charlie Place. I just wanted to talk about two smallish things. On your agenda today, you're talking about looking at whether or not to have parks as all being parks or some being open space. And I'm here to speak my mind about my concerns for spaces that we've protected in the past that aren't maybe well understood. There was a 15-meter boundary along Wishart Road next to Rock Height Terrace when those houses were put in. There's also a 10-meter boundary of protected space along Wishart Road next to the woods at Royal Bay, that first phase. And in those areas, both residents and the public may be unaware that those areas are protected. Not that no trees would ever come down, but just that we are trying to keep them. I've come across on a few occasions, I've been called by residents with concerns for changes being made within those zones. I've seen a lot of degradation within some areas of those park-like spaces, where, say, the moss that's on rocky outcrops has been removed. I would imagine someone's probably harvesting it, thinking this is no problem. I'll just make my moss basket with something local. But the long-term impacts are that the moss can't grow back. It takes many years for the soil on that rock to build up, etc. So I'm just speaking to the importance of trying to, where we're trying to save nature and it isn't maybe an active recreation space, that we need some way to designate that so that it is saved. And I wanted to speak to your other item. I can speak to it when it comes up if you prefer. More sense.
Or you can just, is everybody okay with Councillor Day continuing? Sure.
Okay. So the second item on the agenda is the Quarry Parks Plan. And I just wanted to suggest that there's nothing in the report that speaks to accessibility. And I think that should be a goal in all of our parks, that we consider that. And one of the most useful efforts that I've seen in the past has been to refer it to an organization like Access West Shore. They're now known as, they used to be the Intermunicipal Advisory Committee on Disability Issues, or IACTI, who's been active in Colwood for 30 years. And they will do site visits and do a little audit to explain what concerns might exist in something that already exists, or they can give advice in terms of what makes parks more accessible. Generally, it's grades and widths of the path and no stairs and smooth surfacing to make it easy to roll or use crutches on, that sort of thing. But there are other issues, and I just would hope that you would include a referral to Access West Shore. Not that I'm avoiding the Capital West Committee, but they don't have any citizen appointees yet. And Access West Shore has people with lived experience who could provide immediate feedback. It's just been helpful in the past to see that information up front earlier in the planning process.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else that wants to speak? No. Okay, moving along to new business. Gord, you're up.
Good afternoon. I'm here today just to speak to the briefing. And I'll just preface to say that the briefing is for information purposes only. It was presented to council. I'm going to print it. It's sits with this committee as well as the Environment Committee. It's there just kind of to give information on when we make recommendations, if it's a park dedication and staff feel that it doesn't follow or it doesn't meet the criteria of what we would consider a park dedication. This is just some information behind, you know, how we make those recommendations. Obviously, it's not changing anything. All recommendations will still come to this committee and council to make those decisions. But this was just a briefing with that information. And if there's any questions that I can answer, I can answer those.
Did anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Gord. On page 2, there was, it was a very, very informative brief, and thank you for that. And it answered a few questions that I had about it. The brief explains a great deal, and one of the areas that is pointed out is disadvantages of designating non-usable green space as parks. But the other flip side of things maybe wasn't mentioned in that. And I was just wondering if you might just speak briefly on elaborating on the flip side, which is disadvantages of designating non-usable green spaces as covenants. So the disadvantage. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Through the chair. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was kind of in here, but it's, I mean, definitely the main disadvantage with, having a covenant over park dedication would be that the city doesn't have full control. Like, it's not, if it was a park, we're there, we do regular maintenance, regular, inspections of trees and that sort of thing. So I mean, like, that would be the main disadvantage. I myself don't know that there would be any other disadvantages as far as just that the city doesn't have the same control over the area. And I use control for lack of a better word. Still the covenant is there, and the covenantee has to abide by the covenant. But I mean, if it's a park, then that middleman is not there, and there's no issues that way. That's pretty much the only disadvantage I could see with that.
Thanks, Gord.
Any other questions? No. Thank you, Gord. And then next, Matt, you're up. Quarry Park expansion concept plan.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Matt Blakely, Senior Planner, Community Planning. Today I'm here to present the Quarry Park Expansion Concept Plan for your consideration and to seek your recommendation to the council, to council to endorse the plan for master planning purposes, should the city move forward with the proposed transfer of land currently being considered by council. So for context, I've provided the Latoria South Parks plan on your screen there. You can see that Quarry Park has a relatively central location within Latoria South and is well connected to the surrounding neighborhood of Royal Bay. In September 2023, staff initiated the Quarry Park expansion plan concept plan process for phase 2 and the expansion area. Quarry Park is located, as I said, in the Royal Bay neighborhood, and phase 1 of the park, which is the northernmost section, is currently under construction and anticipated to be completed in spring 2025. The city is currently exploring options to acquire 2 parcels of land adjacent to Quarry Park, which could then enable the city to enlarge the current Quarry Park in accordance with the concept plan I'm presenting today. So the expansion would add 1.3 hectares, which is 4.76 acres, to the existing park, resulting in a total park area of 6.46 hectares, or just shy of 16 acres. The development of the community park in Royal Bay is a direct recommendation of the citywide Parks and Recreation Master Plan and the Latoria South Parks Plan. So it will, as I said, it's a phased approach. The construction of Quarry Park and its various amenities are well underway. So there was actually a test run done by some professional cyclists at the Bike Skills Park a couple weeks ago that a few of our staff members stumbled upon. So that's very exciting. And then expansion of this land would require council's endorsement prior to funding and implementation timeline exploration. The community center had a feasibility study, which was completed in 2023. Construction and timeline for that facility is pending funding, and it would likely be constructed after Quarry Park expansion is completed. And then finally, the school board site, which is up in blue there, we're still waiting for updates from School Board 62. So we'll know more once they update us on timing and funding. So this is the base level Quarry Park plan that was approved in 2023. So the kind of strongest colored section there is what's currently under construction with the bike park to the north. So some of the main features of that is, as I mentioned, the bike skills area and a pump track. So it offers a variety of routes that will help riders improve, advance safely. It utilizes the natural landscape. There's quite some slope change in the northern section of this park. And then there's also a central pedestrian plaza and playground, which is kind of the heart of the recreation space. So the playground supports various age groups with certified play structures and natural play elements. Again, this is also under construction. And then there's a pedestrian plaza, which will offer seating and easy oversight of the playground and grass lawns. It will include picnic tables, bike racks, benches, and be able to accommodate a large number of people during events. So the proposed expansion some of the key features, the expansion aims to enhance the park's offering by providing spaces for both active and passive recreation. So this expansion benefits the South Colwood community by providing opportunities for flexible green spaces, sports fields, and recreation facilities, benefiting all residents and visitors. Give you an idea here. So as I mentioned, the park is proposed to grow by 1.93 hectares, adding to the existing Quarry Park area. Additional amenities like a community center, synthetic turf soccer field, expanded green space, improved infrastructure with more parking, and enhanced quality of life through recreation and social interaction. The plan envisions a future community center integrated with a planned adjacent elementary school, fostering a cohesive and vibrant neighborhood. The community center facility will provide an inviting, inclusive community space that welcomes all Colwood residents, broader community members, and partners. So the less labeled version. I can pause here quickly if anybody has any questions just about what you're seeing, or I can just finish and we can do questions afterwards. Okay. So one of the key features of this expansion is an artificial turf field. Artificial turf fields have become popular in recent years due to their durability and low maintenance requirements. They are multi-purpose and suitable for multiple sports. However, there are some drawbacks, such as injury concerns due to the harder surface and higher surface temperatures, environmental issues like water runoff and disposal of the turf when it reaches the end of its lifespan. So staff recognize these concerns and are committed to exploring opportunities to implement artificial turf solutions that implement organic materials and are easily recyclable. So the development of this plan was done through public engagement in a variety of ways. Most of those are listed thoroughly in the report, but I'll just touch on a couple here. So we conducted public engagement through the Ideas Fair and also a community survey that was done at the same time. So the feedback we received on the plan was generally supportive, with comments focusing on park programming, desired types of fields, courts, and activities. So some of the key findings from the survey: the park washroom and change room, that building received the most support with 91% of respondents supporting. Some of the respondents noted the concerns that I mentioned regarding synthetic turf fields, and just mentioned things like the injuries and environmental sensitivity. And then finally, many respondents noted interest for additional playing fields in Quarry Park and Colwood in general. Respondents emphasize interest for lacrosse, softball, baseball, soccer, and football fields. So with regards to climate considerations, parks and open spaces in general help mitigate greenhouse gas emissions, enhance climate resilience, and support community well-being. Installing EV charging stations, which will be done as part of this Quarry Park construction, aligns with the climate goals of the city, promotes renewable energy, and reduces the city's carbon footprint. The expansion contributes to climate adaptation and resilience through carbon sequestration and stormwater management. So Quarry Park expansion represents a significant investment in community infrastructure with a total estimated cost of $9,675,783. This cost estimate was prepared by Lanark, who is the landscape architect that did the conceptual plan, and it's intended for high-level planning purposes only. It's based on historical cost data, and its intention is to provide a financial forecast to guide budgeting and funding decisions. So the program elements that are shown in the expansion concept plan, the ones that are in addition to the base level plan will need to be funded by the city, where The base level design is being funded through developer contributions. So with that in mind, the city's current community amenity reserve fund has a balance of $4.16 million. That's as of December 2023. And 2.9 of that reserve has been budgeted to partially fund the Galloping Goose overpass bridge. As a result, the city would need to rely on other funding sources, such as the Park Improvement DCC program and the Amenity Cost Charges program, which is a project that the city is currently working on and hope to implement by the end of this year, early next. So in conclusion, despite the cost, the development of an expanded Quarry Park and its associated amenities will provide substantial recreation and social benefits to the community, enhance environmental sustainability and resiliency, and improve the quality of life for residents and visitors alike. So I respectfully request that the committee recommend to council that the provided staff recommendation. I've also included alternative options in the staff report before you. So thank you all for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Please put your-
I do have some questions, if you don't mind. The first one is about funding. I wonder if you can just explain a few things to me because I might just not understand. Of the 9.6 million that it will cost. Oh, first of all, I want to say what an amazing park. The connectivity, the opportunity for community recreation. You know, it's going to be quite an opportunity. Now, my question about funding, the 9.6 million. Can you explain to me, you said the developer is responsible for basic plan amenities and, excuse me for not understanding, but of the 9.6 million, and I understand that does not include the price of the land, and that's 2 parcels that need to be purchased. And I'd also like to ask, you know, where does the money come for that? But what is this the developer's basic plan amenities, and how much of the 9.6 million is that?
So the 9.6 is and the estimate done for the expansion, which is essentially everything not heavily colored in this image here. So everything on the south east part of the park, that's what that would be.
Is the 9?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the part that is colored in this image, that is being funded solely by development contributions. The grass field and the soccer field shown in this image here are elements that are secured through development agreement with Gablecraft. So they would have to provide similar amount of space and grass space. The actual amount of which I don't have the numbers for right now. We still would have to work out those details should this plan move forward into master planning purposes. One of the elements of the recommendation is that the committee ask council to direct staff to return with funding and implementation timeline. And that's where we would establish some of those more details around what the developer would contribute and what the city would have to.
And it's mentioned that some of the funding, so that top portion is taken care of, except for our 333 for the playground, right?
Correct.
The bottom part, 9.6, plus the land that we have to purchase, right? But there's some, the soccer field
Yes.
is something different.
Yes.
And then some of our funding is going to come from something called the Park Improvement DCC program and the Amenity Cost Charges program. So the city is going to look for funding through those 2 programs.
So those are programs that are, the Development Cost Charge Parks Improvement program already exists, and that is a fee that developers pay into on a per unit basis for new construction. Amenity cost charge program is very similar, but it hasn't been adopted by council yet. It's just in the process of being worked out with staff and our consultant. But the intent of those is to take money from new development so that development is paying for their portion of what they're adding to our parks needs. And then the city would be responsible for kind of the other half of those costs. But the intent is to add those in. And there's a complicated kind of thing of the types of projects we can charge for. So like a soccer field, that can be part of parks improvement DCCs. An artificial turf field can't be part of that. It has to come from the amenity cost.
Okay.
I could give a whole
Yeah.
other
yes, that
presentation
sounds
on that, but
complicated, but
yes, and that's part of why we would be looking into where these, at the next step, looking at funding and timelines.
right.
We would kind of look at what do we have in each of those funds? How long is it going to take to fund these, et cetera, et cetera.
And in our kitty right now, we have 4 million, right, for all parks right now as
For-
of December or
For
of
community
September.
amenities, which is a very
Oh,
broad term.
just for community
Yeah.
amenities.
Yes,
Okay,
and
not for land purchase or.
yeah, so the land purchase is a separate project or process right now that is being looked at by council. So there's some basic information online. There was a notice posted in mid-September about the disposition of land, which is a separate piece of land on the south side of Royal Bay. 3698 Machosen Road off the top of my head, I believe it is. And that's a piece of city-owned property that the city is potentially swapping with the developer, but it's still under consideration from council, which is why this conceptual plan is basically contingent on if that were to happen, then we could move forward with this.
Got it. Land swaps are great if they work that way. Thank you for that. That's very helpful because I wanted to understand, if we were depleting all of our money in the kitty, because this is a wonderful project, but there are some other wonderful projects, of course, around the city that we're all aware of. And, I personally am aware of one that I'm hoping the city, will consider and that there's money available. So thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah, thank you.
I have some other questions about the project, but that's just the funding part.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Continuing on the funding side, since Carol brought that up first, I've got lots of questions, but I'll focus on that one first. Can you just remind us how much the synthetic turf field itself is going to cost?
Yes, so that's why I brought my laptop. It is estimated to be about, including the apron and everything around it, I believe it's 4.5 million. That's on the high end. We have seen estimates of around 2 million, but those are generally less eco-friendly. So our estimate was done on the higher end so that it allows us to have some flexibility to build a field that is a little bit more environmentally friendly and safe for users.
Yeah, so we're looking at like half of that almost half of the 9.6 million is just that synthetic artificial turf.
And I
field.
believe just on that note, the proposed washroom facility, which is that white square just to the north of the second field there, I believe that's 1.5 million. Because that's change rooms and a viewing area and things like that. So those two ticket items are arguably the most costly in the
Right, and I
proposal.
think you made it clear in here that this is not the community center. The community center would be,
The
it would
community-
be additional funds separate and apart
Yes,
from this.
Correct,
And there would have to be funds found for that as well.
Yeah. And the community center is one of those items that could be a part of the amenity cost charges program that is currently being developed. So if this was to move forward for master planning purposes, we can include some of the costs for that into that program.
Okay. And just in reading some of the background material, I saw that, you know, I was just concerned with how it was decided that there was going to be 2 more soccer fields. And yet we've had people come before us, you know, asking for other things for this park. And I don't see those other things, but I see lots of soccer fields. And I just wonder if we're not fully considering, and I kind of looked back to see how was that decision made, and was it because there was, you know, I didn't get accurate numbers on, you know, where, but it did say that there were frequently mentioned ideas. We do know that, you know, that the people have come here, you know, asking for tennis courts. We know that tennis courts, pickleball courts, multi-purpose courts are not, you know, we don't have many of them in Royal Bay. And then also that, you know, the lacrosse box, and I understood something about the soil not being suitable, and that another location was going to be looked for that. But yeah, I was just wondering, you know, about that, and the fact that also there was something that said when you put out about the fields, there were 22% of people, not that were neutral, but that were completely opposed to synthetic turf fields, whether that was from the injuries or potential increase in injuries or the environmental impacts. That to me is concerning, that we're going forth with another synthetic fields, also knowing that, you know, just a few blocks away at Royal Bay Secondary, there is already a synthetic field, and 4.5 million seems like a very large price to pay when there's so many other things that people in the community are asking for. And we're not really, when we're doing all for the soccer, we're not really thinking about everybody's needs. So that's I guess my question to you would be, how was the decision made to go with all soccer and say, okay, tennis, we're not gonna deal with you, and lacrosse, we're not gonna deal with you, and other, you know, things for this particular park expansion?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little. I don't have the Parks and Recreation master plan in front of me, but I know that given there's a comparison in that document that shows the deficiency in terms of the amount of recreation facilities based on a comparable size community, and Colwood had a deficit of soccer fields in relation to our peer communities. So that, and it was, I think it's 3 or 4 that we were short off the top of my head. I don't know if you can, if you know off the top of your head, Ian.
Thanks, Matt. Just to add a little bit more detail relative to the Parks Rec Master Plan. So in 2018, we came up with that needs assessment that Mr. Blakely is speaking to, and it said the next 20 years we need to create 5 more athletic fields. Those are large, flat facilities, and we have a very limited opportunity to achieve them here in Colwood. This is a site that lends itself to those larger fields. There's other opportunities in the community to integrate smaller facilities like courts. So that's one of the big reasons why we prioritize this site for those larger athletic fields. It is a challenge for us to meet those long-term needs, but we think with this plan and potentially 2 more athletic fields in the Allendale development, we could meet that long-term need.
Is that the deficit? Is that including school fields? And like, I understand that some schools, you know, it's but it would be a lot less expensive to go in and regrade some of those schools that have fields that are unused. I see because I see lots of schools where their entire field is completely unused on the weekends.
And thank you for that question through the chair. Yes, the analysis did look at school fields. So We're looking at this site being co-planned with the school district to have that third field at the elementary school site. It could be upsized through the city's support so that it could be better scaled to community use. So we're looking at this as an opportunity to have 3 of those 5 fields accomplished. And as I said, an additional 2 in where we have other opportunities for flat land to be developed. But really, we're struggling to see where the future opportunities exist beyond Royal Bay and Allendale for those large athletic field type facilities. So, and so we think it's important really to prioritize that when we can.
Oh, let someone else.
Sorry, did you, you had some information?
So an average community of our size has about 7 soccer fields. We currently have 3. So this is based on the 2018 analysis. For grass soccer fields, it's not including synthetic fields.
Does that include JDF? And there's Royal Bay.
Yeah, I guess how are you getting that number?
That's in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
So
Well, what-
Yes, so I can jump in.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, sir. I'll put this, it's quite a detailed doc. So suffice to say that when we did our needs assessment, we looked at all of the soccer fields in the community. The needs really are based on the growth projections that we're putting forward for the community, which are quite high. So, for example, we're seeing development activity right now of just under 10% of our total dwellings being created every year in terms of the building permits we're issuing. So this is a big challenge relative to the future need. We're looking at Colwood continuing to be a place for families and a place for children, and they need soccer fields. The recommendation that's before the committee today also includes proposed direction for us to look at how we can integrate some of those other facilities that the community is asking for in our parks plans. There's opportunity to, as I said, integrate some of those facilities into existing sites and potentially Quarry Park as we move past the conceptual phase. We certainly looked at different opportunities in terms of co-locating the community center with things like sport courts, and those could reemerge as we take a closer look at the designs. But what we want to do is to put forward that opportunity to develop larger athletic fields at this site. Its size and shape lends itself to that, but at the same time, not lose sight of those other amenities that people are asking for.
So, can I just pick up on that?
Yes.
So my understanding is that we have more fields than that, right? Currently, we have if we go throughout the velodrome, the Belmont turf. I think there's field at John Stubbs. There's fields. There's Dunsmuir. I mean, whether or not they're like actual, like, regulation, there's certain ones that obviously you would have your older players playing on, but they're enough for like a Timbits young team kids to play on. So I'm not like, I understand you're wanting to get to 7, but I'm wondering if we have more than one at West Shore Rec. There's more than one soccer field there. So
Through the chair, just to confirm, our needs assessment we did as part of the master planning process looked at all of those fields in the community. What I'm mentioning in terms of the 5 additional fields, that's to address the growth in the community that's expected over the next 20 years, in addition to all of the fields that you just mentioned.
okay, yeah, I'm just saying, like, I feel like for $4.5 million, we would want to address not just the soccer community, which is great, that's growing, and we are doing that with the other fields that is there and the field that's going to be at the school, but that there might be an opportunity to address and some of the other organizations that have come to our committee looking for us to support their interests and needs as well.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I just think I might have some input that could be helpful. Kimberly, as a regular user of these facilities, myself and with my kids. Um, when we're talking about soccer fields, first of all, they're not just soccer fields. So a bunch of different sports are able to use these facilities. Men's league football, youth football, youth soccer, adult soccer, and then community events on the grass space that's seen here where is what was talked about as being 2 soccer fields side by side, that larger green space. Another thing to consider is that all of the fields that exist in the school system, particularly on the elementary schools, are basically unusable for unorganized sports. The fields aren't super well taken care of. There's divots, potholes, long grass sections. The injury potential is a lot higher on those fields than it is on the synthetic turf, even with the synthetic turf's higher injury rates. And a lot of the elementary school fields are also not the correct size. So they can't have like a U11 soccer game on them because they're too small, that kind of thing.
Thanks, Chris. For you.
Can I
ahead,
speak
Carol.
about synthetic turf? If we do go the route of synthetic turf, and I know the price tag is a little more, but if that is the case, if that's where we're going, I think it's really important that we not use the rubber infill and that we spend the money on a more organic fill such as coconut or cork, because we're not very far from a Squamot Lagoon or from, I don't know, flowing if it would affect Latoya Creek in any way, but any runoff, that's a concern to me. So I think if we do go that route of synthetic, I think those are important considerations. I also think to reduce the heat islands that can occur, and we are dealing with climate change, and it's going to get hotter. And we've got our kids on those fields or adults. We want to do something about those heat islands. So if that involves planting trees around the edges of the soccer field, so be it. I think that's something we have to budget for and include. Also, I understand I did make a phone call to West Shore to get a little more information, but I understand that it could only maybe have a lifespan, that turf of 10 to 20 years, let's say 20 years. So, then it has to be replaced. And, I feel strongly that it does not go to the landfill, that we work very hard to find a place to recycle, to be cognizant of that when we purchase, just for the long range plan. And I just also wanted to speak, we had mentioned, what about tennis? What about lacrosse? What about pickleball? And, if we're, this is a little bit moving just beyond Quarry Park, but if we are interested in covered lacrosse, I hope we will consider that maybe for West Shore Park's location, but Allendale, I do hope that we will be considering that for tennis, and we have other groups beside, and soccer is big. I know it's big, but and we've heard from tennis too, and they want a home. And so, just to be aware for future and not so distant future, but that land at Allendale, before it's taken up for another reason, to be considered for these other recreational sports. I do have 2 other areas, and I don't know, I can wait if anyone else wants to speak. It's not to do with artificial turf, it's something else I'd like to bring up.
I'll just take a second, if that's okay, Carol. I just wanted to address a couple things or ask some questions too. So on my map that I have here, 14, where the community center is, there's like the space beside it. What is planned there? Or is there
Yeah, thank you.
like
So
the two squares that are,
yeah, so those represent an expansion to the community center. That comes straight from the feasibility study that was done. So there's phase one, which is kind of the lightest kind of box there. And then as community need arises and as funding comes available, it was proposed that a larger gymnasium would be added and other facilities on top of that. So the space we wanted to show the entire space that was required just for the development of the different amenities in the park. But in the short term, that in theory that would be empty space. That would be a grass field or something like that until construction of phase two was started.
okay, thanks for that. And I guess I'm hearing that we have all these competing priorities and we'd like to try it, take care of them all in this one space. But I think sometimes when you keep it one uh, one way for one, like for the open fields, as Chris mentioned, and the multi-use fields, and that you can use it for more than just soccer, I guess, but also that it gives soccer a home. And I just wondered with I know it's going to come to council and that sort of thing, and staff's going to work on it further, but with the clubhouse, where would that be envisioned to be?
That's still something that staff would be looking into. If it was something considered, there potentially one of the expansions to the community center or something along those lines. Like I said, we hadn't really built it into this conceptual plan, but
Yeah.
because this is intended for master planning purposes, we could explore that addition.
Okay. Yeah, and I see the community center could also be a home. Maybe there's a way to put the racquetball or the squash, what have you, in there. Um, I guess, and then I guess my only other concern is I don't really want to hold this up if everybody's agreeable and moving it forward. But the accessibility piece really is missing. It is kind of glaring that it seems that it was overlooked. And I'm just wondering if we can somehow keep this going, but maybe refer it to the Capital West Accessibility Committee for inclusion.
If I could respond to that, Madam Chair. Yes, staff would certainly welcome that referral, but just to say that the professionals that we engaged, the team at Lanark are accredited to be looking at accessibility issues, and it's certainly something that's baked into everything we do with them and the work that we're doing to create these conceptual plans. Apologies for that not being front and center of the plan, but I can commit to the committee that was a big part of the thinking here. Trying to look at ways in which the accessible areas flow into each other and don't require steps is a big part of the planning. So,
yeah, thanks, Ian, for that. I know it's also the accessibility plan is going to be coming to council, so it could just be, and the public participation part is going to be coming up in the next while. So it's something that we can get feedback on at that time as well. Kate, I just have some other folks that want to talk here. Carol. Go ahead, Carol.
My turn. Okay, another point I'd like to bring up is that in the original plan, they were going to take away the amphitheater and make the bike park and an off-leash dog park. And that off-leash dog park was dropped, and the reasons given were sort of a lukewarm response from the people that they surveyed. But I am here to ask that be brought back. And I have I think, some really strong reasons for that. And so I'm going to propose that we take option B on our options And we recommend that council direct staff to make specific changes off-leash dog park to the Latoria South Quarry Park conceptual plan amendment. And this is why. It was mentioned originally, and then the survey that was published says that only when the response to an enclosed dog run was surveyed at the Easter event, there were 12 yeses, 4 maybes, and 14 no's. And that was reason given. And there's one more survey for an off-leash dog park. The enclosed dog run, 3 respondents said they would go for a dog on an enclosed dog park, and 3 expressed that they didn't want to. It's not a very high survey number, and 6 said they might like one. So that sort of the other 3 and 3, and then there's 6 that said maybe. I don't think that unless there's some other survey online that had a huge response, is enough to drop the off-leash dog park. And I know that the first phase is already under construction, but I still think we need an off-leash dog park. I feel very strongly. We have 2 nature parks close by. Latoria Creek Park is designated as all dogs under owner's control. Just last year, I think it was, Havenwood Park Council, and I was here, voted to make Havenwood on leash. So what we're saying is the 2 close parks here to Royal Bay are pretty much on leash dog areas. Now, I know we're taking care of soccer, and I'm not saying we shouldn't take care of, but we have a playground, we have a bike area, we have soccer. We're really looking after recreational needs, but Royal Bay is growing, and a lot of people are going to use this park for passive recreation, walking their dog. I know there are a lot of dogs in Royal Bay, and there are going to be more, and we don't have in this area an off-leash dog park where you can let your dog off the leash and they can run around and play with other dogs and do what dogs do without being controlled and restrained. I think people will really want this. I don't live in Royal Bay, but if I did and I had a dog, I would want to be able to go to the park in Royal Bay and let my dog off. My kids have a dog, and where they live, I take it to an off-leash dog park, and the dog loves it. I love it. And it's good for me because I get to see the dog be happy, talk to other people. Anyways, the 2 nature parks, I volunteer in one of them. And I've seen the damage done by off-leash dogs. Up in Havenwood, up in the Gary Meadow, I see what happens when dogs are allowed to run through the camas, just the shooting stars. And I see that. There's a reason why our mayor and council voted to keep Havenwood on leash. But people need a place to let their dogs go, and the lots are relatively small in Royal Bay. So I'm going on, but I do think we need to look towards those people that are wanting passive recreation by walking their dog, chatting with their friends, letting the dogs run. But now, where do we put it? We've got a plan that's drawn up, and I've been looking at it, and I'm thinking number 13, which is called Central, what is it called? It's called Central Lawn. It's in the phase 1 area. You wouldn't want to take it away from the fields. So, and would we take it away from the bike area? Because originally, in the original plan, it was going to be in that area. They were taking away the amphitheater, putting an off-leash dog park in. It was in the writing, and the bike park. So I don't know where we're going to put it. But I really think that we need it. Sorry to go on for so long.
Thanks, Carol. I just want to expand on that a bit. Just Colwood Creek Park is our off-leash dog park, right? Currently, we have a
Unofficially, yes.
unofficially, and then not far down the road from Royal Bay, we have Tower Point is off-leash, and then we have all these big parks. I know they're not enclosed, but in Royal Bay, like Meadow Park and stuff, where dogs can run. And wouldn't it be great if people actually picked up their dogs' stuff and they could use all those fields in the schools that are unusable for sports because they're always mucky and stuff? If they cleaned up after them, there's all the schools areas. I don't know, that's where I would take my dog if I could. Just a suggestion. Anyway, I just think there's lots of open spaces. It's just not everybody looks after their pets and that sort of thing and ruins it for others. For it to, I don't even think you're allowed to take your dog to pick up your kids from school anymore. That's how bad it's gotten. But anyway, those are just suggestions. I like your suggestions too, Carol. I just don't know with the first part what can be added or changed at this point. I mean, I think that's a done deal, is it not?
It was adopted by council based on the knowledge that dog park was being removed, and it's currently under construction. So it could be. I'm not exactly sure of how that procedure would work.
Okay.
Just because it is under construction.
Madam Chair, if I could. I can just expand. So we say unofficially for Colwood Creek, but staff are working on quite a large dog park at Colwood Creek. So there will be plans to do a enclosed dog park, which pretty much encompasses the whole of the Cecil Blog side of Colwood Creek Park. And that's going to be quite a expansive off-leash park that will include water feature as well as play amenities for dogs, as well could have a smaller section carved out for just small dogs. So it's going to be quite an extensive dog park, or that's potentially quite an extensive dog park. The dog park that was originally there at Quarry Phase 1, the amphitheater was removed for the bike park, but the dog park was still there. It was very small. It was about just over a quarter of this room was the dog run. So it wasn't a very large area. It was also quite a good area. It's on top, it's right on the top, and it's quite a nice view as well. So that was the fact that Colwood Creek is going to be such a destination type dog park. I think that had a lot to do with why that wouldn't be there. It really wasn't feasible in that small area, and that's just a little bit of background.
Okay. Oh, no, you were on. Push it again. Oh, push the button again.
That sounds amazing, Colwood Creek. It sounds wonderful. But, we're trying to get people out of their cars a little bit. And the idea of walking in your own neighborhood is good for residents. And it's good for the dog too. Active transportation in your own neighborhood, just walking to your neighborhood park. I would go with just a small dog off leash area than no dog off leash area in Quarry Park. It's just that opportunity to let the dog go, even if it's a small area. Okay, that's it.
Kimberly?
Okay, I'm gonna return to, I'm not letting go of the tennis court, pickleball court idea, just because right now we've got that the multi purpose one that's tennis, basketball, and pickleball, the two courts behind Dunsmuir that were the those are great. The only problem is that those are not accessible to the public during the day during the school year. So they're only available in the evenings and on weekends for the general public to use those two courts, which are very well used. I was over there yesterday afternoon and I saw people of all ages. I saw teenagers out there playing pickleball. I saw people waiting on the courts to play tennis. So it's a very well used space. And as we have spoken, I mean, there's more and more people coming into the Royal Bay area. If we want to keep the active transportation going and we want to have these types of facilities close, I see Quarry Park as the opportunity is here and now to put something in that can keep people in their community rather than jumping in their car to have to go all the way, during the day if they want to play. Like I'm talking about some of our older, people maybe who are retired and whatnot, going all the way to West Shore Rec Center for the closest places to play tennis or to play pickleball. If we can put something, just give them something. And I'm not saying we have to build 6 or 8 courts, but to give them a couple of courts so that people can recreationally get out and enjoy it. I think it's something that the schools could use as well to, teach tennis or teach pickleball or teach, and they could also have the capability of being used as basketball courts as well. But I see that as something missing from Royal Bay. It wasn't in the Meadow Park side. It wasn't in the first phase of Quarry. It's now we're looking at an expansion of Quarry and we're not doing that again. It just seems like a real miss to leave that out when tennis and pickleball are sports that people can play. And no offense to soccer. Soccer is wonderful and I played soccer. But it isn't, you don't see too many 70-year-olds out there playing soccer. Tennis, pickleball, you can play that from, being a young child all the way up. So I think that there's something that we need to look at, and we have this opportunity right now to do this with this space. And I think I understand, the idea of putting it somewhere else, but we want to think about active transportation. I think that's super, the point that Carol made about keeping people in the community, giving them a place that they can walk to, bike to, and putting something for everyone. Putting something because if all these soccer fields go in and, you've got people who don't play soccer or don't play, we have I think some senior facilities, some villa housing, things like that going in both to the beachlands and the Royal Bay area. Those are kind of geared towards older adults, and to have something for everyone, I think is really important. And this is an opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Judy.
Yeah, there's space by the rec center, phase 2 and 3 for some of those things. If they could be like temporary spaces. Like a dog park is basically a fence around a grass field, right? So even you could put that up for 5 years and then build the addition later. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I think I think I saw that expansion area too, and that looked like a good location for it. I'm just wondering if the budget seems like that's going to be an issue already with there not being, when you gave the funding, them, it was about it's 4 point something million that's there, but then is already, some of it's already spent on the Galloping Goose project, right? So there's not that much of a pot left, and we have to figure out how do you take that pot and spread it among lots of different projects. So that's kind of a consideration. And I know one of the things that that people were overwhelmingly supportive of was the community center, right? That one has received 85% support. So that's something that makes all the sense in the world to put our funds and our money towards that. And because that one is, the whole community has spoken and said that they want that.
Okay, so does anybody have a motion that they like to put forward on? Okay. Go ahead, Carol. Oh.
So this could be perfected by the other members here of the committee, but option B, recommend that council direct staff to make specific changes, in quotation marks, off-leash dog park and temporary courts to the Latoria South Quarry Park conceptual plan amendment. Any ideas for changes to that motion?
Not, I like that, but not temporary courts, just courts.
Okay, so that's, Carol, so that's your motion. Sorry, I'm just looking for this, for the full motion. So the regular one, the regular motion or the recommended motion was that the committee recommends to council to endorse the Quarry Park expansion, but you're suggesting just not at all, okay. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Somebody, okay, Kimberly. Okay, so the motion is open for discussion, for further discussion.
Could we just have the motion read? I just want to know if it is as we think it
Or
is.
see it up on the screen, maybe.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Was option B, was option B not recommend that council direct staff to make specific changes? Is that not the option we were presented with?
Sorry, my apologies. So in the report, there's options 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't see option B, sorry.
Hi, Madam Chair. So yeah, what I'm hearing from the committee is that they like the plan, but they think that a dog park and some temporary sport courts could be added. So I think that's what, so option B or option 2, whatever it says in the report, is really to highlight for the committee, they have the opportunity to add different features or take different features away from the plan as you've explained. So I think it could be as simple as you stated earlier, that staff be directed to also
Incorporate those extra.
those 2 other features, yeah. So to endorse the plan with the caveat that we also explore the opportunity to incorporate those 2 features.
That sounds good. It's nice to see it in writing if we're going to vote on it, that's all. And there was some discussion about whether it be temporary courts or just leave the word temporary out. And the only reason why I included temporary was because from reading the documents, I was under the impression that there's some chance that they might include courts in the community center, or there might be room outside. So that's why I put temporary, because the building won't be built for a while. So we could put the courts there. I don't know. I don't know about the expense of tearing up a court that's been put there. It might not be a popular move, of course. But if we go with not temporary, then we need to have land for that. So I'm okay with leaving out the word temporary. But I would like to see it in writing just so that we could vote on it.
So Carol, would you be okay with the recommendation being that they continue on, that we endorse the plan for expansion as it is, but like with these things being incorporated or trying to be incorporated or to co-locate them as it states, and just add them in there, like the tennis courts, the dog park, and so I'm sorry, I forget what the other was.
It was just. It was just, I don't know if it can be like this, but option B, recommend that council directs, and it could include, recommend that council direct staff to make specific changes, off leash in brackets, and courts, whether it's tennis or pickle, to the Latoya South Quarry Park conceptual plan amendment. And I don't know how I got that. Is that not in everybody else's packet? Option B? Wow.
No, well, maybe in
I
a
have
different report.
Ah,
Sorry,
okay.
through the chair. I think that you're looking at one of the appendices and not the actual report that's
Oh, that
attached.
could be.
So I believe that
That could be.
the motion on the screen might encompass everything that you
Right.
stated, but
Okay.
do you want me to read it out loud?
That sounds fine.
Okay, so that the committee recommend to council that council endorse the Quarry Park expansion concept plan for master planning purposes and direct staff to return with the funding and implementation timeline. And that staff also be directed to continue to explore opportunities to co-locate recreational group facilities and amenities such as the Wandafuka Soccer Clubhouse, covered lacrosse box, racket, and I put in brackets tennis sport courts, and an off-leash dog park in city parks, including Quarry Park.
Sorry. It's implying that we accept it as is, but let's explore the option in another park. Let's put a off-leash dog park. And I'm sorry, that's not what I'm asking for.
But so, Carol, just when I look at the plan here, some of it is like, it's not bolded, it's not part of it. So like, if you look at like 13 to 18, it's all loose. It's like flexible grass field space. Like it's not fully on this map. It's not fully planned. I guess I'm just concerned about losing the other stuff that's already agreeable at the top.
I I would really like to see even a small off-leash dog park. It was mentioned in the original plan, and I don't think enough people really contributed to the survey to drop it. I think it's just for all the reasons I mentioned. I think it's, oh, I didn't see that. Okay. There you go.
Can you call it a multi-purpose court, just so that it's not just tennis specific, but it's, that it could be, right here. Up at the top, in the addition of
yeah.
tennis court, just put multi-purpose court. Yes, thank you.
It says off-leash, doesn't say dog.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I could make that motion.
So can we make a friendly amendment to the motion that was? Carol?
It's not, okay, we can put it forward as this motion on the screen.
You don't require a seconder? Okay, does anybody else have anything else, any further discussion, or you just want to vote on it? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Whew. Okay, I guess that's everything. It's a wrap. So can I get a motion for adjournment, please? Chris? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Kim.